AITA for saving a Roman soldier's life. Jewish Rebellion 70. What do you do when your oath conflicts with your loyalty? When saving one life means betraying your people? In ancient Jerusalem, one Jewish doctor made a choice that his community called treason, but that choice would save his life in ways he never expected. Welcome back to If Reddit Existed Back Then, where we explore the impossible moral dilemmas of people throughout history. Today, we're traveling to Jerusalem in the year 70 AD, during one of the most brutal sieges in ancient history, the Roman Empire against the Jewish people, and one doctor caught in the middle. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we bring you impossible historical choices every single week. Let's read his post. Aghar, Jewish community, posted by user Elazar the physician in the year 70 AD. Title: Am I the asshole for saving the life of a white Roman soldier who was part of the army destroying our city? My name is Elazar ben Shimon. I am 34 years old. I am a physician, trained in the healing arts by my father, who was trained by his father before him. For 15 years, I've treated the sick and wounded of Jerusalem. I've delivered babies, set bones, cured fevers, and eased the dying into their final rest. I took an oath when I became a physician, an oath to preserve life, to heal the sick regardless of who they are, to never use my skills to harm. 3 days ago, I honored that oath. I saved the life of a Roman centurion who was bleeding to death outside our walls. Now half of Jerusalem wants me dead. Let me explain what happened, because the situation is far more complicated than it sounds, and I need you to understand. I didn't save a Roman because I love Rome. I saved a man because he was dying, and I'm a doctor. The siege has been going on for 5 months now. 5 months of hell. 5 months of watching the greatest army in the world slowly strangle our holy city. 5 months of starvation, disease, and death. General Titus, son of the Emperor Vespasian, commands the Roman legions. 60,000 soldiers, they say. Maybe more. They've surrounded Jerusalem completely. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. The food ran out weeks ago. People are eating leather, rats, things I won't mention. Inside the walls, we're tearing ourselves apart. The Zealots control the Temple Mount. The Sicarii control the lower city. Different factions fight each other, almost as much as they fight the Romans. Last month, Zealots burned our own grain stores to force people to fight instead of negotiate. Thousands of pounds of grain gone because some men would rather we all starve than consider surrender. I've tried to stay neutral. A physician doesn't take sides. A physician heals whoever needs healing. That's what my father taught me. That's what I've always believed. But neutrality is getting harder every day. The Romans have been crucifying captured Jews along the walls, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. I can see the crosses from my window. I can hear the screaming that goes on for days before they finally die. My cousin Yochanan was crucified last week. He was 17 years old. He'd tried to sneak out of the city to find food for his mother. The Romans caught him, nailed him to a cross, and left him there as a warning. It took him 2 days to die. I could hear him calling for water, calling for his mother, calling for God. I wanted to hate every Roman in existence. I wanted to pick up a sword and kill as many as I could before they killed me, but I'm not a soldier. I'm a physician, and physicians don't kill, we heal. That's what I kept telling myself, even as my city burned, even as my people died, even as everything I loved was destroyed around me. 3 days ago, everything changed. I was treating wounded in a makeshift hospital near the southern wall. We'd run out of most supplies weeks ago. No clean bandages, no medicines, no poppy for pain, just water, prayers, and whatever I could improvise. A young man came running in, one of the zealot fighters. He said there had been a skirmish outside the walls. Our men had ambushed a Roman patrol, killed most of them, but taken casualties. He needed me to come immediately. I grabbed what little supplies I had and followed him. The scene outside the gate was chaos. Bodies everywhere. Jewish fighters, Roman soldiers, all mixed together in the dust and blood. Our men were stripping the Romans of weapons and armor. Anything useful? I started triaging, checking the wounded, deciding who could be saved and who was beyond help. Most of the Romans were dead. Most of our men were wounded but stable. Then I heard a sound, a groan, weak and wet, coming from beneath a pile of bodies. I pushed aside the corpses and found him, a Roman centurion, maybe 40 years old. He had a wound in his side, deep, probably from a spear. He was losing blood fast. His armor had been partially stripped, his sword was gone, but he was still alive, barely. He looked at me with those Roman eyes, brown and terrified, and he said something in Latin. I don't speak much Latin, but I understood the word please. I should have walked away. Every instinct, every ounce of loyalty to my people told me to leave him there. He was the enemy. His army was destroying my city, killing my family, crucifying my cousin. He deserved to die, but he was also a man, a wounded man, a man who was looking at me and begging for help. I thought about my oath. I thought about my father, who once treated a Roman tax collector that everyone in our neighborhood hated. I asked him why, and he said, because suffering doesn't have a nationality. Pain doesn't care about politics. A physician who only heals people he likes isn't a physician. He's just a man with useful skills. I knelt beside the centurion. One of the zealot fighters saw me. He shouted, "What are you doing? Leave him! Let the Roman dog die!" I said, "He's wounded. I'm a physician." The fighter grabbed my arm. "He's the enemy. His people are starving us. His people crucified Yochanan, and you want to save him?" I looked at the centurion. He was fading fast. "Another few minutes, and he'd be dead," I said. "Yes." The fighter spat at my feet and walked away, but he didn't stop me. I worked quickly, packed the wound with cloth to slow the bleeding, applied pressure, used techniques my father taught me for battlefield injuries. The centurion was tough. He didn't scream, just gritted his teeth and watched me work. When I'd done what I could, I looked him in the eyes and said, in broken Latin, "You live maybe, need rest?" He grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. He said something I didn't understand. Then he said one word I did understand. "Gracias. Thank you." I left him there. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't bring him inside the walls. That would be actual treason. But I'd stabilized him enough that his own people might find him in time. As I walked back through the gate, I felt the eyes of every Jewish fighter on me, judging me, condemning me. By nightfall, everyone knew what I'd done. The accusations started immediately. Traitor, collaborator, Roman lover, people I'd treated for years, people whose children I'd delivered, whose parents I'd comforted in death. They looked at me like I was something disgusting. Rabbi Yehoshua, the most respected religious leader still alive in our section of the city, summoned me to explain myself. I stood before him and the council of elders. The room was packed with angry faces. Rabbi Yehoshua said, "Eleazar, you are accused of giving aid and comfort to the enemy, of using your skills to save a Roman soldier who would, if recovered, return to killing our people. What do you say?" And I said, "I say I'm a physician. I took an oath to preserve life. The oath doesn't have exceptions for enemies," one of the elders shouted. "Your oath is to your people, to Israel, not to the pagans who are burning our temple." I said, "My oath is to God, and God created all men, not just Jews. When I look at a wounded man, I don't see Roman or Jew. I see a creation of the Almighty who needs my help." Rabbi Yehoshua held up his hand for silence. He looked at me for a long moment. He said, "Eleazar, I've known you since you were a boy. Your father was a good man, a righteous man. He would be ashamed of what you did." I felt those words like a knife. My father had died 2 years ago, just before the war began. He never saw what Jerusalem became. Maybe that was a blessing, I said. My father taught me everything I know, including that a physician doesn't choose who deserves to live. We try to save everyone. That's what makes us different from the soldiers. The elder who'd shouted before stood up. Different. We're fighting for our lives, for our temple, for everything sacred. And you want to save the men who are destroying us? What's next? Will you treat Titus himself if he gets a splinter? The room erupted in angry shouts. People called me names I won't repeat. Someone threw a stone that missed my head by inches. Rabbi Yehoshua restored order. He said, "The council will deliberate, Eleazar. You will remain in your home until we decide your fate. If you try to leave, you will be treated as a traitor and executed accordingly." I've been in my home for 3 days, waiting, wondering if the people I've served my whole life are going to kill me for doing what I was trained to do. My wife, Miriam, stands by me. She says I did the right thing, even if it was dangerous. She says God will protect us, but God hasn't been protecting much lately. The temple is surrounded, the city is starving, children are dying in the streets. If God is watching, He's not intervening. So here's my question. Am I the asshole? Was I wrong to save a Roman life? Should I have let him die, like everyone says? Or was I right to honor my oath, even when honoring it meant betraying my people? I don't know anymore. All I know is that I couldn't watch a man bleed to death and do nothing. Even if that man was my enemy, please. Someone tell me I'm not a monster for believing that all life has value. Let's check the comments from his fellow Jews and others who weighed in on his impossible situation. Top comment from user Rabbi Yehoshwelder. I'm the rabbi who presided over his hearing. I want to say something publicly that I couldn't say in that room full of angry men. I don't know if Eleazar was wrong. The Torah teaches us to love our neighbor, but it also teaches us to defend our people. The sages disagree on whether enemies deserve mercy. I've spent 3 days searching the scriptures for guidance, and I've found arguments on both sides. What I do know is this. Eleazar is not a traitor in his heart. He's a physician who did what physicians do. Whether that makes him righteous or foolish, I cannot say, but I will not condemn a man for following his conscience, even when his conscience leads him into dangerous territory. Reply from Eleazar the physician. Thank you, Rabbi. Whatever you decide, I accept it. I just wanted someone to understand why I did what I did. Comment from user Miriam, wife of Eleazar. I'm his wife. I've watched him struggle with this decision every hour since it happened. He doesn't sleep. He barely eats. He keeps asking himself if he did the right thing. But I know my husband. I know his heart. He couldn't have lived with himself if he'd let that man die. It would have destroyed something inside him. Maybe what he did was wrong by the rules of war, but it was right by the rules of his soul. And I'd rather be married to a man who follows his soul than one who follows the crowd. Comment from user Zealot Fighter Zaman. I was there. I saw him save that Roman. I wanted to kill him on the spot. That centurion's unit had killed 3 of my brothers in arms the week before. Brothers, men I'd trained with, fought with, bled with, and this physician kneels down and saves the man who probably gave the order. I don't care about oaths. I don't care about philosophy. In war, you kill the enemy. You don't heal them. Eleazar is a traitor, and he should hang from the walls next to the Romans. Reply from Eleazar, the physician. I'm sorry about your brothers, truly, but I didn't save an army. I saved one man, one wounded, dying man who couldn't hurt anyone in that moment. Is that really worth hanging me for? Reply from Zealot Fighter Simon. Yes. Comment from user Roman Soldier Marcus. I am a Roman legionary. I'm writing this from our camp outside the walls. I heard about what happened from survivors of the patrol. The centurion you saved is named Gaius Petronius. He's been with the Legion for 20 years, fought in Britannia, Germania, everywhere the Empire has enemies. He's a hard man, but fair. He doesn't enjoy killing. He just does his duty. When he woke up and realized a Jewish doctor had saved him, he wept. He said he'd never met an enemy who showed mercy. He said it changed something in him. I don't know what that means for your war, but I thought you should know. Your mercy wasn't wasted on a monster. It was given to a man who might actually deserve it. Reply from Eleazar the physician. Thank you for telling me. I needed to hear that. Comment from user Crucified Cousin's Mother. My son Yochanan was crucified by Romans last week. Eleazar mentions him in his post. Yochanan was my only child. I watched him die over 2 days, nailed to a cross, crying for water that never came. And now I'm supposed to forgive Eleazar for saving one of the men who did that to my boy? I can't. I understand his oath. I understand his reasons, but understanding doesn't stop the hate. every time I see Eleazar, I see the Roman he saved, and I imagine that Roman nailing my son to that cross. I don't want Eleazar to die, but I can't forgive him either. Maybe that makes me a bad person. I don't care anymore, replied from Eleazar the physician. I'm so sorry about Yokshanan. I treated him when he was a child, when he had the fever. He was brave even then. I can't imagine your pain. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I just ask you to understand that I couldn't watch another person die. If I could prevent it, even a Roman, even the enemy. Comment from user philosopher Josephus. I am Josephus, formerly a commander of Jewish forces in Galilee, now in the Roman camp after my capture. I've seen both sides of this war, and I'll tell you what I've learned. Mercy is not weakness. The Romans who show mercy to surrendering Jews are respected by their men. The Jews who show mercy to Roman prisoners are remembered by history. Eleazar saved a life in a war defined by death. That matters. The zealots will call him a traitor, but I call him a physician, and I suspect history will agree with me. Reply from zealot fighter Simon. Josephus is a traitor who surrendered to the Romans and now writes propaganda for them. His opinion means nothing. Reply from philosopher Josephus. I survived. My opinion is the opinion of someone who lived. Yours may soon be the opinion of someone who didn't. Comment from user Greek Dr. Hippocrates. I write from across time and space, but I must speak. The oath Eleazar mentions is sacred to all physicians. We swear to do no harm. We swear to treat the sick regardless of circumstance. Eleazar honored that oath in the most difficult circumstances imaginable. If physicians only treated their allies, medicine would become another weapon of war. By saving the Roman, Eleazar preserved something more important than one life. He preserved the principle that healing transcends conflict. That is not treason. That is the highest form of service. Comment from user youngest son David. I'm Eleazar's son. I'm 12 years old. Everyone at school says my father is a traitor. They throw stones at me. They call me Roman lover. I don't understand. My father helps people. That's all he's ever done. He helped our neighbors when they were sick. He helped strangers who couldn't pay. He stayed up all night with dying people so they wouldn't be alone. Now, everyone hates him because he helped the wrong person. I don't understand how helping can be wrong. Can someone explain it to me? Because I just want my father back, reply from Eleazar the physician. David, I'm so sorry you're suffering for my choice. I love you, whatever happens. Remember that your father tried to do what was right, even when it was hard, even when no one understood. That's all any of us can do. Comment from user High Priestanas. The temple is burning. The Romans are breaching the inner walls as I write this, and we're debating whether a doctor should have let a man die. Look around you. Our world is ending. The Holy of Holies will be desecrated within hours. Does any of this matter anymore? Let Eleazar live. Let him die. It makes no difference. God has abandoned us. Everything we loved is turning to ash. 1 week after the original post, an update appeared. Update from Eleazar the physician. The city has fallen. I'm writing this from the Roman camp. Yes, the Roman camp. I know how that sounds. Let me explain. 3 days after my hearing, the Romans breached the inner walls. They poured into the Temple Mount like a flood. I could hear the fighting from my home. The screaming, the clash of metal, the roar of flames. Temple burned. I watched it burn from my rooftop. The most sacred place in the world reduced to ashes. 2,000 years of prayers, sacrifices, and devotion gone in a single night. Rabbi Yehoshua died defending the Torah scrolls. The zealot fighters died in waves, overwhelmed by Roman numbers. The streets ran with blood. My family and I hid in our cellar. We waited for the Romans to come to kill us or enslave us like they were doing to everyone else. And they did come. A squad of legionaries broke down our door, swords drawn, ready to butcher another Jewish family. But then their leader stopped them. It was the centurion, Gaius Petronius, the man I'd saved. He walked into my home, looked at me, and said my name, Eleazar the physician. I nodded. I couldn't speak. He turned to his men and said something in Latin. They lowered their swords. He walked up to me and said in broken Greek, "You saved my life. Now I save yours. You and your family. Come with me. I didn't have a choice. We followed him. He led us through the burning city, past piles of bodies, past screaming women being dragged away, past children crying for parents they'd never see again. Everywhere I looked, horror. But the soldiers didn't touch us. Gaius walked in front, his hand on his sword, and no one interfered. He brought us to the Roman camp outside the walls. He spoke to his commanders. I don't know what he said, but the result was clear. We were prisoners, but protected prisoners. We wouldn't be killed or sold into slavery. That was 4 days ago. Since then, I've been treating wounded, both sides, Romans who were injured in the assault, Jews who surrendered and need medical care. I've set bones, cleaned wounds, even performed surgery to remove an arrow from a Roman officer's shoulder. The Romans don't treat me as an enemy, they treat me as a physician. Some even call me by name. My family is safe. Miriam is with me. David is with me. We've lost our home, our city, our temple, but we're alive. I've seen other Jews in the camp, thousands of them, prisoners who will be sold as slaves, sent to Rome, forced to build the Colosseum or die in its arena. I've begged Gaius to help as many as I can. He does what he's able, but he's just one centurion. He can't save everyone. I've treated the rabbi's widow. I've treated children who watch their parents die. I've treated zealot fighters who, when they recognize me, spit in my face and call me traitor. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am a traitor. I saved a Roman, and now I'm living under Roman protection while my people suffer around me. But I also saved my wife, my son, myself, and I'm still saving lives, still doing what I was trained to do. Is that enough? Is survival enough to justify what I did? I don't know. I'll probably never know. Gaius came to see me yesterday. He brought me food, real food, bread and meat instead of the thin gruel they give to prisoners. He sat with me, and we tried to talk. Despite the language barrier, he showed me a scar on his side, still healing, the wound I'd treated. He pointed to it and then pointed to his heart. He said, "Here, you saved. Here also you saved." I think he meant that I saved more than his body, that something changed in him when an enemy showed him mercy. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if one act of kindness can change a Roman soldier who's spent his life conquering and killing, but I know it changed something in me. I used to think I was neutral, that being a physician meant standing apart from the conflicts of the world. Now I understand that there's no such thing as neutrality. Every choice is a side. Every action has consequences. I chose to save a life. That choice cost me my community, my reputation, my home, but it also saved my family, and it proved something I needed to believe, that mercy still exists, even in war, even in destruction, even at the end of the world. Jerusalem is gone, the temple is gone, everything I knew is gone. But I'm still here, still healing, still trying to do what's right. Maybe that's all any of us can do when the world is burning. Keep doing what we know is right, even when it costs us everything, especially then. Final comment from user Historian from the Future. The siege of Jerusalem in 70 had ended with the complete destruction of the Second Temple. Over 1 million Jews died during the siege and its aftermath. Thousands were enslaved and sent to Rome, where many were forced to build the Colosseum. The temple has never been rebuilt. This moment marked the beginning of the Jewish diaspora, the scattering of the Jewish people across the world that would last nearly 2,000 years. We don't know what happened to Eleazar specifically. His name doesn't appear in the historical record, but we know that Jewish physicians did serve in Roman camps, that acts of mercy did sometimes occur between enemies, and that survival often came down to luck, connections, and impossible choices. The oath Eleazar mentions, the physician's oath to treat all patients regardless of identity, would evolve into the Hippocratic tradition that still guides medicine today. Every doctor who treats enemies, who provides care regardless of politics, who believes that healing transcends borders, they're all descendants of physicians like Eleazar. The temple fell, the nation scattered, but the idea that all life has value, that mercy is never wasted, that survived, and it still survives today. This is the story of Elazar ben Shimon, a physician who saved his enemy, a man who lost everything except his family and his principles, a healer who discovered that sometimes the greatest act of resistance is simply refusing to stop caring. Was he right? Was he wrong? Those questions don't have easy answers. They never do in war. What we know is this. Elazar made a choice based on what he believed, and that choice, the choice to value life over loyalty, saved him when everything else was lost. 2,000 years later, physicians still take oaths to treat all patients. Armies still have rules about medical neutrality. The idea that healers stand apart from war, that they serve humanity rather than nations. That idea started with people like Elazar. His city burned, his temple fell, his world ended, but his principles survived. If you're still watching, thank you. This story was heavy, tragic, and morally complex. That's what real history looks like. Next time, we're going to Viking Scandinavia, where a warrior must decide whether to steal from his own clan to escape to a new life. Drop a comment. Would you have saved the Roman soldier? Is the physician's oath more important than loyalty to your people? Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show mercy to your enemy. See you next time.